Hey y'all, I'm the mom who knows not, and my name is Brianna, and this is part 2 with Jessica Gillan of Bellies, Boobs, Babies, and Bliss. In this portion of the interview, we talk about how doulas like her can support you and your goals and lactation and breastfeeding. Happy listening.
Transition and then I just lost it, so we're just gonna whatever. So let's talk a little bit more about the lactation support and how that can really help, because we said at the beginning how having good solid support throughout can really make or break a postpartum experience. And I think that's really important, because I learned a lot in the weeks after my son was born that I don't want to negate anybody's experience, and I don't want to say like anybody's more knowing or more insightful, but I've heard from numerous sources that breastfeeding doesn't have to be hard. And if it is hard, you should seek support. And I understand that a lot of people don't have access to support. And so it might make it more difficult in certain parameters, but I want to just kind of like reiterate, as a novice, as somebody who's only had to breastfeed one child, when it got tough, I sought support. And that made it a lot easier. And I just want other women to know that they are capable, and, you know, maybe that's part of your baby registry is postpartum support, especially for, I think, breastfeeding, if that's something that you want to do. So I kind of want to like just talk about how breastfeeding doesn't have to be hard, and how that can really help you stay true to your goal of breastfeeding, whatever that may look like. What misconceptions about breastfeeding would you like to kind of discuss?
So I do ask moms in our prenatal work together, what are your thoughts on breastfeeding? I don't want to impose, you know, the stereotype of this very forceful lactation consultant that comes in, grabs your boob, grabs your baby, and puts it up. You know, nobody likes that. Nobody likes their boob being grabbed like that. Like, it's very intrusive. So I asked mom, like, you know, where's your head at on this? What have you heard about breastfeeding? What are your fears? What are your, like, what's encouraging you to breastfeed? And we go with that. So a lot of moms have, you know, experiences around, like, their breastfeeding experience or their breastfeeding knowledge is that it's supposed to hurt. You have to toughen up your nipples, and it's supposed to, you know, be this painful experience. And it's really not the case. Like, pain is an indicator that something is off. So we need to get to the foundation of what is off. Do you have a baby that's tongue-tied? I bring that forth straight up, because tongue ties are so common. And boy, do they affect breastfeeding. So from the beginning, I'm always on the lookout for those markers when the baby is born, and they put baby on mom. Yes, I'm clicking away with my camera because I do offer the birth photography aspect, but I am looking in that baby's mouth. Do we have, you know, the little heart shape? Your tongue it'll look like this. And so sometimes, I would say often, if we can stop and, you know, not get to that place of having bleeding nipples, you know, things like that, like, that's not normal. So if that is your experience right now, if that is your experience, let's find the source. And then once we know what the foundation is, we can take it from there. And very rarely do I have a mom where I tell her, you know, you can't breastfeed. Like, no, we have probably anywhere from like 7 to 12 different solutions for every single problem or hurdle that comes our way. So if you have a baby that's tongue-tied, here's the protocol of how do we, you know, mitigate that and fix that. A lot of misconception is that you are going to have low supply. And so you have to have this big, huge stock of teas and cookies and oatmeal and, you know, all of these things that are, okay, yeah, cool. Like, you can eat all the teas and the cookies and do all the things and, you know, brew it for 7 hours. But if if we're not getting a good latch and baby is not transferring well, all of that stuff is for nothing. Like, the body does not make milk based on what we eat. It makes milk based on how often we're putting to the breast and how often are we putting baby, like how long are they breastfeeding for? How much milk are they actually moving? You have to move milk to make milk. So you got to get that milk flowing and going. And then you will notice your body to naturally meet the needs of your baby, so to speak. I tell moms it's like a restaurant. So your baby has to put in their order. If you're not putting in your order, how does that chef know what to make you? So you need to give baby the optimum opportunity, put baby on the breast as often as possible in a good, pain-free, deep latch. And then you will make the milk. And we know how much the baby is getting from the diaper output. So if baby is gaining weight and we're filling diapers, then we know we're money. We don't have to worry about, am I making enough? Change that mindset to absolutely I'm making enough because I counted the diapers and my baby looks happy and my boob is soft after. And, they get like these floppy hands and they're milk drunk. They've been hanging out at the booby bar for a long time. So you really want them to have like that glazed over look where they are, high on oxytocin and they're like, ooh, we want baby to look like that after breastfeeding. So, let's look for those markers. And if the body and the baby are telling us we're A-okay, then we don't have anything to worry about. But I would say the number one and number two thing is that it's going to hurt and you're not going to make enough. And those two things are just not true.
I like that you pointed out the hand thing. I remember telling my dad that when my son was little, he's like, how do you know he's had enough? I was like, he's relaxed. Look, I was like, and then he watched like the fist like release one time. He's like, oh, never knew that. Yeah. And I was like, it's nobody, a doula, I think, told me that, or maybe it was my chiropractor because she was at the time, because she was really tuned into those kinds of things. Shout out Dr. Bree Katz there in Dallas. She's amazing. But I thought that was like such a simple little tell that you're like, why don't more women know this thing? Yeah. And the other thing I think is like really important is the lip and tongue tie. And a lot of people will tell you, like, I remember Declan like slurping when I first started breastfeeding. Actually, I have two things to talk about. The slurping. And so it was a random nurse. Like, I was fortunate enough, I've talked about this before, about being in a hospital in Dallas where like everybody on that floor was a very breastfeeding friendly hospital. There we go. Ugh, talking about tongue tie. Yes. But it was like a random nurse who saw me once. She was like, and the pediatrician had come in and all these things. And she's like, the pediatrician didn't say anything. And I said, no. She's like, I think your baby has a tongue tie. And I was like, really? And then I asked, and then so I followed up with the pediatrician. She's like, no, he was fine. And I was like, okay. And then I took him into a dentist because, fun fact, people, you do not go to a pediatrician for a tongue tie. You go to a dentist.
No, they don't. Pediatricians just don't get that like
exactly. And I think that's one thing we have to kind of like nip in the bud is that your doctor doesn't know everything. Doesn't mean they're not viable. Doesn't mean they're not essential. But pediatricians are not trained in everything. It's like, as a writer, I don't know everything about media. I know a lot about one forum, right? So I have to train myself and educate myself and other parameters if I want to be more viable, right? Not every pediatrician cares about breastfeeding or lactation support, and therefore they're not going to, educate themselves about it. So I want to point that out. I think that's a really important thing. And I know for those of you in Florida who tune into this, Jessica's resource list on her website is absolutely phenomenal. I've like found so many people on that. Like, it's like seriously. I'm like, this is amazing.
That's the purpose. I just want to create a space where you say, I want to find friends and go have a mommy play date, but I also want to find, where's my nearest La Leche League?
Totally.
Because that La Leche League has been around since, I think they started in the 50s.
It's been a minute.
And,
I don't know, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, I mean, they have like 60 years of breastfeeding support and information and guidance for moms, and it's a free service. Like it's free. Like you don't have to spend any money. Some moms will donate to the chapter. But,
I didn't know that.
you know, if you are seeking breastfeeding support and you're kind of wondering, like, is this normal? Is this not? You know, that resource right there can be so impactful and helpful. And there is something really special about being a new mom and sitting at a couch with other women that have been there. And you're like, hey, we're all in the same boat. Some of us are struggling. Some of us have struggled. Some of us are, you know, looking for that connection with other moms. So I have the La Leche League. I highly recommend La Leche League. Here in Nocatee, we are trying very hard to get these meetings going, but we keep hitting roadblocks on meeting space. So that it is in the works, but when I was doing my lactation training, I sat next to my left, I had a pediatrician. To my right, I had a NICU nurse. And on the other side of there was a medical director for a local hospital. And the reason why pediatrician right here was male, and he was very honest. He was like, you know, I have a lot of breastfeeding babies that come to my practice, and I obtained zero breastfeeding knowledge in my med school. He's like, I don't even have a set of boobs. He's like, so I don't have anything to go from. Nice. And he's like, I don't have kids yet. So, you know, touching back on that, like a lot of pediatricians don't know.
Good for him.
So, yes, I was like, oh, I want to give you a hug. Like that is where a lot of moms turn to their pediatricians and they say, like, what is going on? And the pediatrician says, well, here's a can of formula. I don't know. Just, you know, figure it out.
And rightfully so, because they're the medical professional and you think that they would know. So it makes sense they do that. But like you're saying, here's a can of formula. I don't know how to help you kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of moms, we call it getting boosted. And that's where a lot of moms get trapped, that they you know, turn to their pediatrician. And it happens to me. Wow. Like I was having very serious breastfeeding, I would say hurdles in the beginning of my breastfeeding journey. And I turned to my pediatrician on day 3 and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why do I not produce? And what I didn't know back then is that I was offering formula. So the more formula she got, the less milk I was going to make.
Yep.
So I was kind of counteracting myself. And then I went to La Leche League. I found a lactation consultant in the area. And honestly, if it wasn't for them, the Leche League and my lactation consultant, Jen, I would not have made it 17 months. And so she was very encouraging of like, find your own way. Like what's the best, you know, solution for you, because everybody's breastfeeding experience is going to be different. So it's really all about what is going to be the best solution for your individual breastfeeding goals. Because not everybody has the same breastfeeding goals. Some moms just want to breastfeed for 3 months. That's okay. I am not going to force you to do anything more than what you want to do. And if you want to breastfeed for 6 months, I'm going to support you. I'm going to rally you. I'm going to be team you for 6 months. And if you make it beyond 6 months, that's awesome. And some moms have just been completely honest and say, I just want my baby to get a colostrum. That's you. And I fully support that. Whatever your personal goals are, I'm going to meet you there. So I'm not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. I'm not going to grab your boobs and put the baby, you know, I'm not going to do anything. Like nobody likes that. So.
That did happen to me in the hospital though, 100%. I had like different hands on me every day, like, you know, expressing. And in retrospect, it was helpful, but also in the moment I was like, this is so awkward and uncomfortable. And I know everybody the intention was like well-meaning, but still, like I tell my husband, I was like, I've never had so many hands on me. I gave birth. Right?
It is quite the experience. There's a lot of hands and a lot of people,
in a lot of places.
And, you know, sometimes it's in a lot of places, and it can be overwhelming to say the least. And then you're so tired that you just can't even absorb the information on how to get this going. So,
I think it's important to highlight that we talk a lot about how it takes a village to raise a child. You know, you have your tribe and whatever. It also takes a village to keep a child healthy. And again, you don't want to knock every person has their place, and you don't want to knock like conventional medicine, but there's also people who have specialties like lactation consultants, like doulas, like tongue ties, and dentists. And I think the more that information that we give, especially to new moms who want a certain experience and a certain vantage point, the easier it is. And I happen to be like one of the last people in my friend group who had kids, and so I was learning from other people. I think it's also important to be a little bit humble, and you don't have to take things personally. I remember being a little bit like, why are you telling me what to do? But then once I started like absorbing my friends' experiences, and kind of like when I was pregnant, like, okay, look for this, look for that, here's a tongue tie, and noticing people who paid attention to certain things like tongue ties. Like my son had a lip and tongue tie, which is why he was slurping. And I think that really changed my breastfeeding experience. I was able to go a year, even though my goal was only 6 months, and that,
that's great.
I feel very, I feel very privileged to do that.
That is a big accomplishment. Yes, that's amazing.
I think also having a support, like when my cycle came back and my supply diminished, I felt so like, I don't even know the good word, like demoralized, like I wasn't producing enough, and I couldn't, and this was like 5 months. My period wasn't supposed to come back. Why? Like how I was failing as a mom, and it's like, I wasn't failing. It's hormones, like you can't control them. And having someone to reach out to really changed, are you taking your vitamins regularly? What are you eating? Are you getting a certain nutrients that's going to help promote your supply? Or, those cookies that we prepped and ate for 3 months that we didn't need anymore after 3 months. Like, I think that's also important to highlight, that there will be ebbs and flows in your supply, especially when you introduce solid foods, especially when your cycle comes back. And that doesn't make it any less feasible to reach your goals or surpass it. And it doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing it. Speaking from my experience of being very discouraged when that happens, I was like, I need other moms to know it's not you. It's fine. You can do it.
Yes. Yes. And really, I really want to stress more than anything else is that as mothers, we are not failures. We unfortunately have a medical system that is not set up for mothers to thrive. And that is just the unfortunate fact. So a lot of moms, they think, oh, like I'm just terrible at this. I'm overexhausted. My baby's not latching. All of these things are happening. And the truth is, okay, so if your breastfeeding isn't going the way that you wanted it to, maybe there is a tongue tie. Maybe there's a reason why your baby isn't latching. Maybe you're not a crappy breastfeeder. Maybe it's just that you need more support. And maybe you just need someone to show you, a different latch or a different position or, a different way of doing things, and to be creative. Yes. So I really want to stress to moms that they are not failures. And every day is a gift to your baby and to yourself.
Totally.
Every drop is miraculous. Like when you see under a microscope what breast milk has in it, and you see all of those molecules and all of those cells and the antibodies and the immunity properties in just one teaspoon. Wow. I will never, for as long as I'm living and breathing, I will never ever believe that a mom that didn't reach her breastfeeding goals, that she failed at breastfeeding, because every drop was a gift. Every single bit that your baby received from your body has a purpose, and it did something for your baby, something amazing that is lifelong building. So I really want to stress that, but I also really want to stress that if you have no desire to breastfeed and that is not within your goal set, that's okay too. And I'm not here to judge you and tell you that your baby's going to be sick and that your baby's going to have all these problems and they're going to grow a third eye and they're going to be short and they're going to have all these problems. That's just not, you're not going to get that from me. So if you say to me, I want an awesome birth, I'm here for it. I want a really good postpartum period, I'm here for it. I don't want to breastfeed, I'm here for you too. That's totally okay.
That's so important, because it's not, we talk so much about, and yes, this is about how we can have a healthy and successful postpartum and staying true to that goal. And if your goal is not to breastfeed, that makes you that's amazing. Good for you. You want to feed your kid a different way. Great. Who cares? As long as the kid is fed and healthy, what does it matter? And there's an emphasis on breastfeeding now. And yes, the antibodies everything's really important, all that stuff. But I think anybody who tries to talk you into something that you're not comfortable with isn't being fair to you either. So I love that you said that, because at the end of the day, fed is best. And if that means you're pumping exclusively, I clap my hands to you, because who wants that flange on you every 2 hours for 30 minutes? That thing sucks. All right. So go mama.
Yes. And it's hard. So in finding my solution with my first baby, our solution was to just exclusively pump. I did not know that we had a tongue tie present, and that was the source and foundation of all of our breastfeeding hurdles. And so that in my own individual journey, Ella got Boo we called it Boo. She got it for 17 months, and I was blessed with a very abundant supply. And I just pumped, and no, I didn't like being, here comes Jessica with her suitcase of, here's me and my pump, and here's my baby. I had my accoutrements, I had my baby, I had my diaper bag, I had my pump. I came with all this baggage. But at the end of the day, I don't regret it for a minute. She's so healthy, and I know that I did the best I could with what I had at that time. And so I have been an exclusive pumper, and I've also been an exclusive breastfeeder. So I have that, experience to share with families as well. But no, we don't fall in love with the Medela pump. We don't we don't look at the spectrum and say, oh, you're so cute, but we do fall in love with our baby. And there is that bonding aspect with our baby that we just don't get that from a pump. So if you are looking at your pump and you get angry feelings, you just want to chuck that thing across the room, that's normal, and that's okay. That is totally normal. But we're not going to fall in love with this pump as we would fall in love with our baby.
Goodness gracious. So, I love it. Is there any other things you would like to talk about, and how a trained lactation professional can help you achieve postpartum success when it comes to breastfeeding? Did we miss anything?
I think just don't be afraid to ask for help. Because in the world of lactation, and being involved in La Leche League for as long as I have, I even as a leader, I sit and I do the conferences, and I'm hearing from other leaders, and they're still teaching me tips and tricks. So, I'm always in a space of learning. I always want to learn more. I want to absorb all of that information from, I call it the OGs of La Leche League, that have been helping moms breastfeed since the 70s and the 80s. So in my specific, how I approach moms and help them, I'm pulling from other people's information as well. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Utilize resources. Look into La Leche League. It's free. There's Facebook groups that are La Leche League. I want to say La Leche League Breastfeeding Support is the group. And you can find out who's the leader in your area. And I also want to stress that if a mom comes to me and says, I really want to breastfeed my baby, but I don't have the funds, I'm not going to turn you away. I'm going to either help you myself, and if I don't have the availability on my books to put you in and fit you in sooner than later, then I'm going to direct you to somebody who can. And I'm also going to give you resources for La Leche League and breastfeeding support circles in your specific area, so that you can get the support and guidance that you deserve.
That's incredible.
So, I don't want anybody to think that breastfeeding is only for, wealthy, privileged people. It's for anybody who wants to, and we're all here collectively, that if you want to breastfeed, we're here to help you. So I really just want to stress that as well, that if you want help and you can't afford it, we're still going to be here.
I love that. I think that's really important, because people feel like they can't.
Look into the La Leche League.
Yeah, people feel like they can't because they don't have resources, and things aren't cheap, and medical insurance is so dynamic. And the access to certain things is a little frustrating, but
it is a little hard. And I've had moms that have said they accidentally, they went through their insurance, they got a breast pump, and the breast pump was, I guess for some reason they double build on the breast pump. So they ended up with 2. And so they passed me the breast pump, and I then in turn gave that unopened, brand new breast pump to a mom that needed a breast pump and didn't have one. So some of us, you know, we have like that circle and rotation of support as well, that we can pass those unused. It was a totally brand new box. And I'm like, cool, you know, what are you going to do with it? She's like, well, I don't need 2 pumps. I only have, you know, this to work with. So I don't need all of this stuff around my house. I
think that's a really good thing to note. A lot of insurance companies do cover a new breast pump for moms if you do have insurance. And it's like it depends on the insurance, but I think it's like every 2 years, like calendar year. Make sure you check into that. I didn't know until I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant that I could have a free breast pump. Yeah. And I was like, what?
Yep.
Say what?
Yep. They are typically covered. And I mean, does every mom have to pump in order to make enough milk for their baby? Not all the time. It's a great, you know, I would say it's a little help to help you meet your breastfeeding goals. But I also like, they have this thing called the Haka, and it's like this little collector cup, and it's a suction cup. You put it on the boob and you release, and then it will draw out extra milk. I've seen moms get globs and globs of milk in the freezer just from utilizing the Haka. And so like, you can nurse baby on the right, do the Haka on the left, you know, get 2 or 3 ounces out just in one feeding. And so you put that milk in the freezer and you can bank it. So
and use that,
use it later. So there's that solution too, that you don't really have to be, you know, put on this pump for hours a day in order to make enough milk. Like you really don't have to. And, we can just maximize that initial. A lot of moms will have oversupply in those first few days, or actually first few weeks. So let's maximize that. And if you are somebody who's going back to work, if you are somebody that is going to be spending some time away from your baby during the day, whatever your lifestyle may be, we could utilize that milk. Maybe dad can take a bottle, take a feeding at night, and that can be your break. Or you can utilize that Haka during the day, give me all that milk at night, and that's your nighttime break.
Amen. So, I like that one.
You know, everybody looks different. Everybody has a different agenda. So we're just here to meet you where you're at, figure out what's going to be the best solution for you so that we can meet your goals, and get you the most rest in your postpartum period, so you can enjoy your baby and have a really good breastfeeding experience if that's within your goals.
I love it. So these are some options to stay true. Prenatal doula, or I guess pregnancy doula is a technical term. I don't know. Postpartum doula, lactation support. These are all ways to like find that bliss that you want in motherhood. Anything else we're missing, Jessica? I think we cover a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I just really want to stress to moms that it's okay to ask for help. And it doesn't make you less of a mom if you need help. And that there are, you know, services and people around that are willing to help you meet your individual goals. And we don't have to do things the way that our mom did back in the 80s and 70s. We don't have to do things the way our grandma did back in the 50s. And there is going to be some people that will tell you, this is just a motherhood thing across the board. You will say, I want to do X, Y, and Z. There's always going to be somebody who is going to tell you, oh, I didn't do that and my baby turned out fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's just, okay. But it's important to you. So that's why we're going to do it, because it's important to you. So try to delete and remove advice from people who tell you that you shouldn't just because they couldn't. So if you want to breastfeed, that's awesome. Let's do it. If you want night support, that's awesome. Let's do it. You want birth support, let's have an awesome kick-ass, badass birth. And if you want pregnancy information, I'm here for that too. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of information at you from beginning to end. And wherever you land is wherever you land. But at least, at the very least, you came from a place of informed rather than a place of fear.
I think it's also important to like riff off that for a second is you're allowed to change your mind. You can get 3 months into breastfeeding and hate it. You can have pumped exclusively in one stop. It doesn't matter. You could decide that you don't want support halfway through because you've got it. And then you can go back and say, no, he's 6 months old. He's going crazy. I need someone to help me at night or during the day.
Exactly.
It's okay to change your mind.
Yep.
It's okay to reevaluate your principles, your standards, and your expectations of every situation. I'll tell you this, like from personal experience, I am terrible at asking for help. I still am terrible at asking for help. I'm terrible at accepting support and accepting help. Yeah. And I have to remind myself that it's okay to just change, to pivot, and to accept things. And I think we come in a world where we're so inundated with information, and it's great information and this perfect thing, and everybody has this or other people have that. Like, who cares? What's good for you? And I love that you keep driving this point home. What's right for you? What's right for your baby? What's right for your family might not be right for anybody else. And like you said, Jessica, you can take it or leave it. Pick and choose what works for you and be done with it, because you're the only one who's in it all day, every day. And that's all that matters.
Exactly. Yep. Unless you're changing diapers and getting up with my baby at 3 a.m., your opinion doesn't really affect me. And I'm not going to be seeking your opinion and advice.
Oh, I love talking with you, Jessica. This is Jessica Gillan of Bellies, Boobs, Babies, and Bliss. She is located in Northeast Florida. She has, and I can't stress this enough, incredible resources and content on her website, jessicagillan.com.
Oh, thank you.
And you can find her on social media at Bellies, Boobs, Babies, Bliss on Instagram, and then it's like and Bliss on Facebook, if I remember correctly. She's incredible.
They wouldn't let me do the end. Thank you.
She's incredible. So happy to have you back. Thank you for your insight on how to stay true and whatever your journey is in motherhood. And I'm sure we will have you back sooner or later. There's always more to talk about.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. Thank you.
Anytime.